Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm delighted to present our report titles Education and the Nation Buildings for Foreign Citizens, Shaping Identity and Driving Development, a study completed for the course PMC 515 Education and Development at the School of Educational Studies, University Science, Malaysia. Let's dive into the key insights. Okay, first, let's acknowledge the core details. Our team includes Lin Zilu, Wang Yidi, and Zhao Xuelong. I'm Wang Yidi, and this work is tailored to the 2025 or to 2026 Semester 1 curriculum. The title exam captures our central focus. Education is far more than just teaching uh, literacy or skills is a powerful force in building nations. To guide our discussion, we will follow the structures. We will start with an introduction and the core concepts, then explore the theoretical foundations, post-colonial case studies, and the marginalism linking education to nation buildings, contemporary challenges, future trajectories, and finally, our conclusion with a key reference. Let's begin with the basics. First in the introduction part, core proposition. When most people think of education, they focus on the person's achievement, learning to read, write, and get a good job. But from a macro sociological and a political perspective, education role is much gender. It's a fundamental instrument for nation buildings. The complex process of uniting diverse populations into the cohesive society with a shared identities and purpose. Since the rise of modern nation states, governments have consistently used the school curricular and educational routes to inculcate values, loyalty, and a sense of collective necessity among citizens. Okay, go to the concept defense. To ground on the discussion, let's clarify three key terms. First, education. It includes not just formal schoolings, primary, secondary, and the tertiary, but also the in form of heading curriculum. This heading layers encompasses cultural norms, values, and rituals, like pledging allegiance to a flag or messages in textbook that shaped how students see the world. Second, a nation, as the Benedict Andrews argues that in 1983, a nation is an imagined community. Members may never meet most of their fellow citizens, but they share deep personal sense of comradeships. Third, nation building. This is a deliberate process of fostering that the shared identity and purpose within a stated boundaries. Okay, we went to the theoretical foundations. To understand how education interacts with the nation buildings, we draw on three key theoretical perspectives. Each offer a unique lens. First, the functionalism led to Emma Durkheim. The Wilson's education as a begin necessary social system. It socializes young people by transmitting core values, building a common identity that transcends families or tribal loyalties, and uses stress to sort talent into roles that keep the nation running smoothly. And second, the conflict theory, influenced by the Merrick's Bredinger and Atlas. The perspective challenges the idea of education as a neutral, and it argues education reproduces social inequality inequality. School reward the cultural capital of elite groups. Things like the manners, language, and knowledges that privileged children inherit. Sisters even called education the primary article stated appreciate as it separately teaches students to accept the ruling class ideologies to and their place in the school order. For nation buildings, this means the nation identity profile is often that of the dynamic groups macronizing minorities. Third, the new institutionalism or the world cultural model. From the scholars like Joe Mellers, they explain why the education system worldwide are becoming increasingly similar. Nations adopt universal models like math schools or standardized curricula, not just for practically, but to gain the legitimacy in the international community. Global norms like human rights or environmentalism are integrated into the curricula. Means nation building now happens within a global framework.
Okay, let's see the case study one, India, secularism and pluralism. Let's turn to the real-world applications with three post-colonial nations. First, India. When India gained independence in 1947, it was a fragmented subcontinent, divided by language, religion, and caste. Jawaharlal Nehuru's nation-building vision centered on secularism, democracy, and socialism. So, to manage this diversity, the India implemented a complex language policy balancing the Hindi. The Hindi is the majority language, and the 22 regional languages, and English. The English as a legacy of colonialism, but a practical global tool. So this avoided linguistic hegemony and fostered a pan-Indian identity. Um, its historic curriculum tells a story of shared struggle, uniting figures from all regions and communities around the fight against British rule. It emphasizing a composite culture that celebrates India's syncretic traditions. Additionally, the institutions like IITS and IIMS were established to create a technocratic elite driving the scientific and economic development. So, how about the result? India sought to build a political nation, but uh, where the where the citizenship, not ethnicity or religion, is the basis of national belonging. Okay, let's see the case study two, Singapore. Pragmatism and survival. In 1965, Singapore was expelled from Malaysia, a tiny island with no natural resources and a volatile mix of Chinese, Malay, and Indian populations. Its survival depended on the rapid economic development and social stability. The Singapore's bilingual policy is iconic. Every student needs to learn English as a first language for global commerce and plus their mother tongue, Mandarin, Malay, or Tamil, to preserve the cultural heritage and Asian values. This balance the global outlook with social cohesion. And in 1997, the government launched the National Education Program, in, integrated into all subjects. It will it teaches core messages, Singapore's reliability and the importance of defense, and the value of racial harmony. This narrative of a miraculous journey from backwater to the first world metropolis, uniting the citizens around the shared resilience. The education system is intensely me- mero- meritocratic and identifies and nurturing talent to serve the nation's economic needs. This pragmatism is the cornerstone of the Singapore story. Okay, let's see the case study 3, Tanzania, Ajama and collective identity. The Tanzania led by Julius Nyerere, who embraced the African socialist philosophy of Ajama, meaning familyhood. Tanzania's post-colonial challenge was uniting over 120 ethnic groups and erasing colonial legacies. Unlike many African nations that retained the colonial language, Tanzania adopted Kiswahili as a language of instruction and national life. This single language became a powerful tool for unifying diverse groups and breaking free from colonial influence. In 1967, Nariel reformed the curriculum, shifting from academic elitism to practical skills relevant to the rural life and collective farming. This goal was to create a cooperative and self-sufficient citizen who valued community over individualism. The curriculum also emphasized Ajama values equality, cooperation, and hard work for the common good. While the economic outcomes were mixed, Tanzania's success in forging the strong, peaceful nation, uh, strong, peaceful national identity out of immense diversity is widely recognized. Okay, let's unpack the key mechanisms through which education drives nation building. First, forging national identity and citizenship. Language policies are central here. Unified language like Kiswahili in Tanzania or Bahasa Indonesia fosters communication and collective identity, but this can backfire because prioritizing assimilation may marginalize the minorities, as seen with the Kurdish community in Turkey. Alternatively, the multilingual models like India or Switzerland, it embrace the diversity as part of the national fabric. Second, the national history narratives. The teaching history is not just recounting events; it's selective. Uh, it's selective storytelling. School will highlight the founding myths or the heroic leaders and shared independence to give the citizens common reference points. They often they often downplay the or omit the darker episode to maintain a positive national self-concept. The third, civics and moral education. This explicitly teach their students about the rights and responsibility, democratic structures, and national symbols, core virtues. It will nurture the loyalty, social trust, and the behavioral norms of a good citizen. The second mechanism is developing human capital for economic development. Education acts as a pipeline for skills that drive national prosperity. Primary education provides the basics, like literacy, numeracy, and problem-solving, that are essential for participating in any modern economy. The secondary and vocational education will build on this, producing technically competent workers who support the industry and survives. The higher education then cultivates the professionals, scientists, and leaders who drive the innovation, research, and high-level decision-making. So by aligning the educational output with the labor market labor market needs, the states will boost the productivity, encourage the technological advancement, and strengthen their global competitiveness. The third mechanism is promoting social cohesion and political socialization. Schools are microcosm of society, bringing together students from different cultural, socioeconomic, and ethnic backgrounds. In this shared space, the learners will develop the cooperation, negotiation skills, and habits that integrate diverse communities into a unified nation. So beyond the formal lessons, the hidden curriculum plays a key role. Routines like the punctuality, respect for authority, rule of compliance, and familiarity with bureaucratic procedures socialize students into the wider political and social order. This reinforces their ability and prepares citizens to participate meaningfully in national life.
Well, education is a powerful nation building tool. It faces significant 21st century challenges. First, globalization and cultural homogenization. Globalization creates tension between national identity and cosmopolitan orientations. Young people now engage with global issues, climate change, human rights, through digital media, constructing identities that extend beyond national borders. This complicates traditional curricula that focus on national loyalty. Additionally, English dominates global science, commerce, and online communication. While English proficiency opens global opportunities, it can dilute national languages and widen the gap between an English educated elite and the broader population. Education systems now face the pressure to balance global competencies with preserving national cultural and linguistic heritage. Secondly, international fragmentation. The once dominant national narrative is increasingly contested by diverse groups. Minority communities demand the inclusion of marginalized histories like slavery, colonialism, or indigenous experiences in curricula. At the same time, majority groups often push purified versions of national identity, sometimes mythologizing the past. These tensions turn curriculum debates into ideology battles, reflecting broader societal divides along ethnic, religious, and regional lines. The idea of a single, unified national identity is becoming harder to sustain. Third, the digital divide and 21st century skills. The fourth industrial revolution demands new competencies: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and digital literacy. But unequal access to technology creates barriers. Students from rural or low-income communities often lack devices, internet connectivity, or digital learning environments. This leaves them unable to acquire these essential skills, risking exclusion from emerging economic opportunities and entrenching structural inequalities. Worse, Many education systems are slow to reform curricula. Bureaucratic constraints prevent adopting innovative pedagogies. Nations that fail to adapt risk falling behind in the global competitiveness. Fourth, education in conflict and post-conflict zones. Here, education plays a paradoxical role. It is both a casualty and a tool for reconciliation. During conflict, curricula are often weaponized to perpetuate hatred, legitimize violence, or entrench ethnic divisions, like in Rwanda prior to the 1994 genocide. But in the aftermath, education becomes critical for building trust. Post-conflict reforms typically involve rewriting textbooks to include balanced, inclusive narratives integrating peace education, and training teachers in trauma-informed practices. The goal is to heal societal fractures and lay the groundwork for sustainable peace. To tackle these challenges, nation building education requires evolution with three key shifts proposed. First, transitioning from nationalistic education to global citizen education, GCED, promoted by United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. So, GCED cultivates shared humanity, appreciation for intercultural diversity, and understanding of global interconnectedness. It does not weaken national identity, but embeds it in a multi-layered framework: local, national, regional, and global, enabling students to balance national commitment with global well-being and address transboundary issues like pandemics and climate change. Secondly, integrating education for sustainable development, ESD. Nation building's future is linked to planetary health, as environmental degradation, resource scarcity, and social inequality endanger national stability. ESD teaches the interconnectedness of environmental integrity, economic viability, and social justice, integrated across subjects, not standalone, to develop systems thinking and ethical judgment. It fosters a civic identity rooted in planetary stewardship and intergeneration equity. And third one is leveraging technology for inclusive, equitable education. Digital tools, for example, MOOCs, virtual classrooms, AI-powered adaptive learning, expand access, benefiting remote students, supplementing teacher shortages, and personalizing learning. To unlock this potential, the digital divide must be addressed through infrastructure investment, teacher training, and equitable access to devices or connectivity. Holistically, used technology catalyzes inclusive nation building. In conclusion, education is not just a service to the nation, it actively shapes it. Schools are where national identities, values, and aspirations are crafted and contested. Our report shows that traditional nation-building models, focused on unified identity and workforce preparation, are no longer sufficient. The 21st century demands education that is inclusive, respecting diversity, forward-looking, teaching 21st century skills, outward-oriented, like fostering global citizenship, and sustainable, like prioritizing planetary health. The nations that thrive will be those that balance national aspirations with global realities, harnessing education to cultivate citizens who are innovative, empathetic, and responsible. Finally, our work draws on key scholars and resources, including Benedict Anderson's Imagined Communities, Pierre Bourdieu's work on cultural capital, and UNESCO's guidelines on global citizenship education. Okay, thank you for your attention. This is the end of our presentation.